Ohio. We're high on Ohio. These stories inform and inspire through the words of people who make Ohio home. Good news and good ideas, identifying and acknowledging the excellence that is all around us. Talking about all this reminds me of the fact, okay, well, you know everybody, and it's been a great help to you in what you do now. Tell us a little bit, if you would. Brian Rothenberg, you're Executive Director of Progress Ohio. What is Progress Ohio, and what's your general mission?
So Progress Ohio really, I did it in 2006. I had been working with some unions and doing some consulting to ran some statewide campaigns, and then when I knew that I was over at the Ohio Democratic Party for another stint there, I'd been there a couple times, and I was doing communications, and realized that that technology was moving rapidly. And I really had wanted to get into focusing more on issues and issue advocacy based on my own ideology. So rather than making politics about people, about a candidate or about a person, and then the candidate goes. And so I actually left, believe it or not, in September of 2006, before the end of the election. I think people thought I was crazy because it looked like a Democratic year, and I probably was in line to
Go somewhere
and do something. But it was my opportunity to actually do what I've always wanted to do, which is focus politics on issues and liberal issues and give it a liberal voice. And by doing that as a progressive, you're able to focus things not necessarily on candidates, and you're able to sort of focus your work on making things happen issue by issue. So over the years, I mean, yes, progressive politics, usually you deal with a lot of Democrats, but over the years, I work with a lot of churches. So when we were trying to oppose casino gaming, I worked with many different conservative groups and churches on those issues. I worked on Jobs Ohio, and we wound up with actually the 1851 Constitutional Law Center actually representing us, because for totally different reasons in some ways, they don't like, as conservatives and as libertarians, they don't like, and I don't want to speak for them, but they don't like corporate welfare. And my concern about Jobs Ohio has to do with the constitutionality, but also a long-held feeling that we don't treat development dollars the right way, that because of money in the system with corporations and influence, that we wind up doling out public money in ways that aren't very effective, don't really create jobs. And I care about this state a great deal. I don't begrudge people that disagree with me, even the governor. We've had some tangles over Jobs Ohio. But it's a fundamental difference in how I view what we're doing. And I don't view government as transactional. And I think that we need to have organizations on the left and on the right that view government through the lens of what it's supposed to be, helping people.
I'm sitting here today with Brian Rothenberg of Progress Ohio, and we're talking a little bit about interactions between a left organization, Progress Ohio. I think you'd be comfortable with designing it from an organization who's more of a left focus,
Right.
Blue, and yet you work closely with when the need arises, and you have overlapping goals and policies with those on the right. How, when you talk to a lot of your folks in your constituency, how is that regarded? Because a lot of people out there I have found, from the left and the right, just are baffled at the fact that everybody here at a certain level, we all know each other, we all have lunch with each other, we'll all pop around, say hi to each other, we're pleasant to each other, but yet things don't seem to work in a pleasant manner politically, yet
Right.
It's a personally pleasant. How is this, what's behind all this?
Well, part of it is generational. I mean, I do think that there is right now this tension at the State House, even among aides. I always tell this story. A few months back, I got in an elevator, and there was a young state legislator that I'd never met before. I don't know a lot of them. I'm pretty introverted, so I don't go to the State House a lot. People don't realize that about me.
You're introverted?
I am, believe it or not, I'm a pretty
Well,
introverted
it would
person.
be interesting to put
in
you
an
on
extroverted.
to put you on some extrovert drugs and see what happens.
I'm in
here.
an extroverted world, but I'm a pretty introverted person. But anyhow, so I get on this elevator and had a nice general chit-chatty conversation with a Republican state rep in the elevator, and then he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm Representative so-and-so," and I said, "Oh, I'm Brian Rothenberg from Progress, Ohio," and you would have thought that the plague had entered into the elevator. His face just went stone white. He didn't say anything. He stopped talking, and he got off as soon as he could, probably not even at his own floor. I don't know. But back when I first started in the State House, it was a different environment. I mean,
Yeah.
I was aggressive at what I did, and things like what Dick Finan did put me in a closet. I kind of got a chuckle out of that and build a world around myself. And but I always looked at it like those old Roadrunner films where the Roadrunner and his nemesis would
Wile E. Coyote.
Wile E. Coyote. They'd fight all day, and then at the end of the cartoon, they'd pick up their lunch boxes and walk away, and they were friendly with each other. That's kind of how I felt the environment was in the State House back then. But I think because Ohio became a battleground state and television sort of emphasized the political nature of things, that there's a current world where it's just much harder, much more partisan, much more personal. I find it somewhat interesting when that happens. And I think it's because people don't know each other. I mean, for instance, I think that I've often thought that the governor has a reason to dislike me or disagree with me on some of the issues that I've fought, like Jobs Ohio. But when he came out with some statements about us being, nihilists because we were doing that, or us having to answer to a higher power, I often wonder, is that because John Kasich really, I've never met him. He was from the Washington culture, and his time in the State House was before I was ever down here. Is that just sort of this Washington culture that has invaded Ohio? And if he gets softer, I'm not sure whether he's getting softer because of political season or if it's because he's back in Ohio and he's starting to realize that there's a different tone here, and that you can disagree without being disagreeable. And I try to do that.